Tonight's program is going to explore the data we've collected from the First Department. You have it in the handout. The extent of the problem in other courts, the reason for why there are so few women handling these commercial cases, and if we're lucky, some solutions. Each panelist will give some brief opening remarks, and then we'll have discussion amongst the panel. Please hold your question and answers to the end. The program is being taped, and for those of your colleagues and friends who could not make it tonight, they'll be able to watch tonight's evening within a few days on the City Bar website. And without further ado, let me introduce the panel. We have a truly distinguished, innovative, and groundbreaking group of women up on this bench. And their biographies, which I have read, are simply too long for me to tell you everything terrific that they have accomplished. So I'm going to give you the shorter version, and if I've left out some memorable achievement, it's simply because there wasn't time to get to them all. The Honorable Deborah A has been a United States District Judge for the Southern District of New York since 1994. Judge Batts has been a role model and mentor to many, including members of the lesbian and gay community and the communities of people with color. Prior to becoming a federal judge, she was an associate at Cravath, Swain & Moore, and an assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York in the criminal division. In 1984, she joined the faculty of Fordham Law School and became tenured as on the faculty in 1990. She has been the conference chairperson of the Second Circuit Judicial Conference in 2007 to 2008, and a member of the Defenders Service Committee of the Judicial Conference of the United States. She is currently on the Executive Committee of the Federal Judges Association. I should have said I'm doing this from my right to my left. Sandra Leung is General Counsel and Corporate Secretary of Bristol Myers Squibb and serves as the legal advisor to the Board of Directors and company executives. She joined Bristol Myers Squibb in 1992 as a staff attorney in the litigation department. In 1999, she was appointed to the position of Counsel and Corporate Secretary and became the General Counsel in 2007. Before joining the corporation, she spent 8 years at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and we learned at the pre-panel dinner that she appeared before Justice Mazzarelli, where she was one of New York City's first Asian American female prosecutors. She was part of the original Special Victims Unit at the DA's office. She is on the board of the Leadership Council on Legal Diversity. Michele Coleman Mayes is Senior Vice President and General Counsel for the Allstate Insurance Corporation. She joined Allstate in 2007. Prior to joining Allstate, she served in the United States Department of Justice as an assistant U.S. attorney working in Detroit and Brooklyn. She entered the corporate sector in 1982 and served in lead roles with the Unisys Corporation, Colgate-Palmolive, and Pitney Bowes. She has been recognized by many organizations for her commitment to women in the profession and legal diversity. Among her many honors, she was the recipient of the Margaret Brent Award and the Minority Corporate Counsel Association Trailblazer Award from the ABA Commission on Women in the Profession. She also serves on the board for Legal Momentum and also is a member of the board of the Leadership Council on Legal Diversity. To my left, but in sync with me, hopefully on many cases, is my colleague and friend, Justice Angela Mazzarelli, Associate Justice of the Appellate Division, First Department. Justice Mazzarelli was first elected to the Civil Court of the City of New York in 1985 and was assigned to sit in the Criminal Court. There she served as chairperson of the court's citywide anti-bias committee and was actively involved in working on improving the conditions of female prisoners in New York City courthouses and in developing child care facilities in New York City courts. In 1988, she was designated an acting Supreme Court justice and sat in the criminal term. In 1992, she was elected to the Supreme Court of the State of New York, and in 1994, to the delight of her colleagues, Governor Mario Cuomo designated her to be an Associate Justice of the Appellate Division, First Department. She was the second woman ever appointed to sit in that court, and we are truly honored to have also with us tonight Justice Betty Weinberg Ellerin, the first woman to ever sit on the First Department. Justice Mazzarelli is a member of the Board of Directors of the Practicing Law Institute, the New York Women's Bar Association, and the National Organization of Italian American Women. Penny Shane is a partner in the litigation department at Sullivan & Cromwell, LLP. Her work focuses on litigation involving financial institutions, class actions, and state and federal governmental investigations arising out of the issuance and trading of securities. She handles commercial litigation and arbitration for manufacturing concerns and real estate investment companies, including arbitrations before the Stock Exchange, the National Association of Security Dealers, and international tribunals and courts. She has been recognized as a super lawyer for many years, and I'm not going to list all of her super lawyer designations, but they are many. She also has handled a number of significant cases pro bono and served as a director of the City Bar Fund. We are going to begin tonight's panel, as I mentioned, with each panelist giving short introductory remarks, and then I'm going to open it up with some questions for the panel. The first speaker will be Justice Mazzarelli, who will talk in part about the data you have. Then we'll start with Ms. Shane to follow, and we'll move this way along the panel, ending up with Judge Batts. And I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I thank you for joining us. Justice Mazzarelli.
Thank you, Roz, for that terrific introduction, and also, Roz, thank you for really organizing this panel. It would not have happened without you, and of course you had the cooperation of so many others, particularly Barbara Potofsky of the New York City Bar. I have to tell you, it is a pleasure beyond description to have Carla Moskowitz, Diane Renwick, Helen Friedman, Rosalyn Richter, Sheila Abdus-Salam, and Sally Manzanet Daniels on the Appellate Division bench with me. It's really such a terrific thing to have those sisters. You can't imagine how I quell every time I see us together when we have a breakfast meeting or something. It's just terrific, and what a panel. I mean, what a terrific group of accomplished, successful women. And just look around this room. Look at these tremendous lawyers and judges spread out here. I mean, I don't think I've seen such a crowd in this room since I don't know when, and that really tells us something about the quality of the people that are involved. When I was first appointed to the Appellate Division in 1994, that's a long time ago. By the way, I was the last judicial appointment of the prior Governor Cuomo, the first Governor Cuomo. I was only the second woman to sit on that bench. The first woman was Betty Weinberg Ellerin, who was also its first only female presiding judge. When I arrived at that court, Judge Ellerin greeted me with open arms, as did many of the other judges who were there too, like Judge Israel Rubin, who's back there. I got a very warm reception. But Betty, who had been my mentor and teacher throughout my judicial and legal career, continued to do so. Indeed, she taught me how to be an effective appellate judge. She also planned my wedding. And if anybody needs help in that, she's terrific with that too. But when I joined the court, Betty had been there as the only woman for 10 years. We served together there for 10 years, and then she left me. I refuse to use the word retired because it does not apply in any respect to Judge Ellerin. She has never retired. But when we were there together, Judge Ellerin used to say, there were 14 male judges then and 2 women judges. Judge Ellerin always said, "Don't worry, Angie, the odds are even." But after she left me, I didn't think the odds were even anymore. But in many other situations in the law, we know the odds still are not even. And that's why we're here tonight. Judge Richter has asked me to talk a little bit about the statistics that demonstrate the paucity of women lawyers we see in the appellate division courtroom arguing commercial cases. Let me just start with a good example. One day a few years ago, when, at that time, as usual, I would be the only woman judge on the panel, we had a major, which translates to big money, right, commercial case. And the courtroom was full of lawyers, mostly men. When the case was called, one of the 6 lawyers coming up was a woman. Literally, my heart leapt. I was so excited. Finally, a sister at the bar was coming up. However, she dashed my hopes when, in starting her argument in response to the appellants, she began by looking at the bench and saying, "Gentlemen, your questions were interesting." I queried, "You didn't like my questions?" And of course, thinking to myself, "You don't want my vote?" No, I do have a vote. She blanched, but of course, what this showed, besides the fact that she had the usual anxiety every lawyer experiences at oral argument, was the assumption, because she'd probably practiced this, that all of the judges were men. And she wasn't so far off at that time. Well, that is no longer the case. But it is still true that most of the lawyers we see in commercial cases are men. And believe me, we notice it. Now, no one here is suggesting quotas. We don't want them. But what we want is that every lawyer, regardless of gender, race, color, creed, national origin, or sexual orientation, should have the same opportunity to shine and exceed according to his or her ability. It seems that we haven't quite gotten to that point yet. When I graduated from law school a very long time ago, less than 10% of the lawyers were women. By 1980, which is 30 years ago, I think, 31% of the attorneys admitted in the first department were women. In 1990, 43% were women, and in 2010, 48% were women. So if 30 years ago, 31% of the attorneys admitted in the first department were women, one would think that after 30 years, somewhere near that number would be arguing all types of cases in our first department courtroom. But that is not the case. We judges know by our observations that very few women appear on commercial cases. And the statistics that have been compiled prove our hunches. From September 2010 to January 2011, the Appellate Division First Department published decisions in 468 civil appeals. Of these, 98 were commercial cases. Of the 98 commercial cases, the lead attorneys in 86 were men, and 12 were women. Only 12% of the lead attorneys were women. The numbers are even more disturbing if one looks at the total numbers of attorneys involved in those cases. In those 98 cases, we had 207 attorneys. Only 12 were women. That's 7.3%. And these numbers are even more startling when one looks at the numbers of women lawyers in practice. For example, the New York City Law Department has 58% of its attorneys women. The New York State Attorney General's office counts 48% of its attorneys as women. And let's look at the judges. The Appellate Division First Department is now 38% women. Do you believe that, Betty? Federal judges nationally, 35%. In the New York State Supreme Court, the justices sitting in commercial cases, 37% are women. And nationally, 31% of the attorneys are women. So why do we have this great disparity? Well, that's what we're here tonight to examine. Thank you very much.